What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacMovieGuy.com. I'm not a drunk Scotsman, and this is Ironheart, Season 1, Episode 1. Only some people will get that reference. Anyway, click like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell. Join me on my journey. Many people say they go into things blind. I literally go into things blind all the time, developing my own little cult following here on the tube, the YouTube, where I'm here for you, for your pleasure. uh, anyway, Ironheart is the new latest Marvel Disney Plus series, which the internet decided it hated at concept. I don't know. They're like, wait a minute. There's a black girl who's the new Iron Man. This can never be good. Um, and I don't think they ever gave it a fair shake. I don't think they ever were gonna give this a fair shot. So, certain people out there on the internet are gonna review this as if they're neutral, but why don't you go check out their trailer reactions for Ironheart? It's, or like literally anything else that has a strong female lead, a person of color in a role that they don't think needs to be a person of color. If it ain't Bruce Willis, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, then why does it even exist? Why? Anyway, Ironheart follows Riri. Dominique is back as Riri. She played Riri in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which was where we were introduced to Ironheart. Ironheart is a fairly new comic character. It came along with sort of Marvel had a little bit of a crisis where they wanted to because when you have things that are running for a long time, I mean, let's be honest, Doctor Who kind of did the same thing where they're like, listen, this series has been running a long time. Nobody's ever going to go watch all of the Doctor Who from way back in the day and try to catch up to it now. So there's kind of like the newer Doctor Who, but there's also old Doctor Who. And Marvel decided, why don't we refresh some of these characters, which is how you got Miles Morales, who people seem to like. Those films seem to do well. Yes, they're animated, and we still have a Peter Parker. I wonder if Miles Morales was the only available Spider-Man, how much would they like it? Right now, he's sort of like an alternate universe Spider-Man, while Spider-Man still exists. So, would we extend the same courtesy to him if he joined the Avengers? I don't know. But we do have Miles Morales. We also have the possibility of introducing Amadeus Cho, who was introduced in Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, but not as he's not Hulk yet. But the fact that he's in that show is sort of like playing with the idea that they could one day flip the switch on him as well. We have Kate Bishop as the new Hawkeye. These are characters that are sort of like next generation replacements for the other ones, so that way you don't have to go back and read 50 years worth of comics to get caught up. You can jump in on the new one for your generation. And so Riri is sort of this generation's version of a character. Some would call it woke because, well, back in the day, everybody was white. Like most of the superheroes were white. Every once in a while, you had a Luke Cage or Storm, but like there really wasn't a whole lot of diversity in Marvel Comics early on. So it got slowly added in, and now it's sort of expanded a little bit more, where they realize that these characters can anchor their own comic runs. Or can they in this day and age? I don't know. I like to think they still can. Is Ironheart worth your time? I've only watched this as just, I'm trying to break down episode by episode. So the first episode, we see Riri, who she lightly mentions Wakanda Forever without directly saying it. She's like, that thing that I did. So you're just supposed to know that she was in Wakanda Forever. If you don't watch the other movies, then you wouldn't know what that meant. I mean, it's a reference to something that if you didn't watch Black Panther and didn't know where Ironheart came from, it would probably be confusing. She does say the word vibranium closely associated to that reference. So, but it's not like she can say, when I was in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. To her, it wasn't a movie. To her, it was her life. So she goes back to school at MIT. Um, she she talks about the struggle of the fact that, you know, Tony Stark had all this money to be able to do everything that he wanted to do. She doesn't have any money, so it's all for her. It's about getting these grants and finding the finances so that she can create the kind of gear like she has. She's a child prodigy. She graduated and she got to college at 15, so it's a little early to be going to college. And obviously she's smart and can build these suits, and has shown her ability, her adeptness at tech, and obviously is excelling at MIT. Or is she? We find out she's been there for like 4 years, hasn't really completed. They don't know if she's ever gonna matriculate. And then I hope I like probably like half the audience Googled that word. So she has this incident, and things go awry, and they use it as a moment to expel her. But she also, low-key, has been like selling science projects and I guess papers. I saw somebody mention papers, but there's clearly like a hologram thing where the kid was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get an A," you know, like that's all the kid wanted. Like, so I think she makes, for certain things, she also just makes things like little quick gadgety things to help kids, because it's MIT. So I mean, although I don't understand why kids wouldn't want. Why are you at MIT? Like that makes more sense if she's just at like some random school with kids who have to take these classes. But it's sort of like, I don't know, when you're at a school that's specific to the thing that you're there to do. Why are you cheating? You're there to develop a skill set. Like it'd be like trying to cheat for somebody who's trying to get through Johns Hopkins, and it's like, but then they're just going to be a shitty surgeon. Just no. She should have been helping like other people who are not MIT students. That would have made way more sense, and then likely not gotten her in trouble. Um, I think it's alluded to the fact that she also was helping other students at other schools with things, but yeah, it's kind of weird that you would help anybody. And I'm like, those should all be like nerds like her. So she gets kicked out and she has to go home to New York. No, it's Chicago. So she goes back to Chi-Town, the Chirac, to Chicago, the rock band, which is what her AI initially, whatever the Chicago references, the musical, Chicago the musical. She goes back to Chicago the musical for her Cell Block Tango. And there she has to, you know, begrudgingly find her place. Reminded me a lot of sort of like Nina's arc in The Heights, where she ends up getting kicked out of Stanford, and she, you know, was like, the neighborhood was so proud of her. I kind of wish there was more of that here, because I think where they go with the plot is sort of unnecessary and unfortunate for her character. But I feel like this should have leaned a little bit more in the Luke Cage direction, where it's more about the neighborhood, it's more about her block, it's more about the stories and streets and the people from her area, and less about people trying to take advantage of her, which is what the series largely becomes. And we do see she has a mom that's there. She had a stepdad, Gary, who had a shop, She had a friend whose name I should remember because her friend is actually in quite a bit of the episode. Natalie. Anyway, I got it. I pulled it eventually. Uh, and we have this flashback where we see that Gary and Natalie died in a drive-by, and Riri's been living with that trauma. It's probably one of the reasons why she wants to be a hero and save people. Her project at MIT was related to making suits for first responders so that they could get to things quicker. So she wants to make it easier for, cops, firefighters, paramedics, whatever, to be on scene without feeling like they're going to sustain any damage. So she's not trying to create like another Ultron. She just wants to create like armor for first responders. It's kind of a nice narrative. She gets sidetracked along the way because we also see this group of scientifically inclined robbers. Lack of a better term, I don't know, man. Anthony Ramos is the head of this little gang. Trent, Trevor, I don't know. After I see more episodes, I know his name will stick with me more. Something like that. And he's sort of the head of this little group. They're sort of the guy that's underneath him, John, who I recognize the actor, but I don't remember what he was in. But when I saw his name, I was like, oh yeah, he's been in something before. What was he in? I just, like, I know I've seen him in something before. He's the one who actually recruits Riri and has her come to this meeting of the minds. They have this one sort of hacker guy that Riri's familiar with, and I guess his reputation precedes him. He keeps wanting to be called Rampage because that's his like online handle, but is like everybody refuses to call him that. One of the hackerish characters is played by I should watch more seasons of Drag Race, but we got somebody who was cast off of Drag Race. And it's this little group who haven't done anything like overtly terrible on screen, except like, that it's probably not like a great group. Although, and I was thinking about this, because people have come like really hard for this series and I'm like, oh, she has to do a lot of bad things. And I was like, yeah, fucking Ant-Man did too. So, like, you know why they care? Because she's black. That's why they care. That's why all those people out there on the internet, because they immediately point out, I've seen some reactions. Some people got this early. Oddly enough, I didn't get an early invite to Ironheart. I did to Andor and Daredevil from Disney, but they don't have audio descriptions, so it doesn't help me. But like later on, she talks about like white privilege in a later episode, and those people, of course, bring that up, and it's like, oh my God, she can't talk about it. 3 episodes in. Like, we're at the point. So, yeah, they're noticing. It's, for some people, it's really hard for them to turn off and not think of her as, well, she's the black character, so of course she would enter the life of crime. And it's like, let me see your Ant-Man review. let me see your Ant-Man review. Where Ant-Man and his little like gang of thieves become the good guys. So, I mean, there's a lot of possibility for that at the beginning. I'm sure some critics have seen the whole season, so they know where the arc is going. But it's not just, the thing is that this is an introduction to Riri. This is not like the whole Riri story. So, like, much like with Tony Stark, the first film was about him sort of realizing that he was selling weapons of war and coming around to maybe why he shouldn't do that. Changing his perspective on trying to do something better. And I think Riri has to have sort of a similar experience so that her altruism can take full shape. Marvel's in a long-term investment with Riri. They're not in a short-term investment like Ironheart and done. She's supposed to be the next Iron Man. She's supposed to be in Avengers. She's supposed to follow a trajectory. So it's not a trajectory that is easily solved in a Disney Plus series, especially for a character who was already in a movie, because we have this whole thing where audiences are bitching about the fact that they have to watch all of these movies and these TV series to be able to catch up. The reality is nobody would have watched an Ironheart movie because most people don't know Ironheart exists. Same reason they don't know Amadeus Cho exists. It would have they would have had to do something like Spider Verse and create this crazy side thing. But then Spider Verse is animated and doesn't really. That's not really the miles that can work into the MCU. So they didn't really create something that was useful to the larger MCU. They just created a story so that people are familiar with Miles Morales. Um, is it possible that somebody could have been innovative enough to create an Ironheart film where somebody would have watched her off of Disney Plus? Sure. Uh, I mean, Ryan Coogler's doing amazing things. If he had wanted to make an Ironheart movie, sure. Absolutely. I'm sure he probably could have, and people would have watched it, and then they still would have complained about it. But at least it would, it would have made money at the box office. Uh, yeah, we did sort of get her origin, but they kind of just picked her up in that movie. It's sort of like it would be like saying that Civil War is Peter Parker's origin. It's not his origin. I mean, he kind of just gets grabbed and then taken into the story, which is kind of what happens to Ironheart. It's not really her origin story. She just becomes a part of Wakanda forever. So this is sort of her origin story. We learn more about her character, where she came from, the streets, the stories, the mom, the friend who she ends up turning into her AI. I'm only recapping the first episode, by the way. So Natalie ends up, she has this annoying sort of like MIT AI at the beginning, and then she gets rid of that and makes her dead friend becomes her Jarvis, essentially. So that's where episode 1 ends, is with Natalie being like, "Who else, bish?" I was like, "Oh, this series is gonna be fun." I don't know. It's a different approach. Um, the first episode doesn't go that deep into like the darkness of the villains. We do have Anthony Ramos is getting his back tattooed like a motherfucker, but so I think we're gonna learn something about. He's got this hood, this cloak, and because it's a hood or a cloak and it has some sort of magical powers, and his back is messed up, I'm gonna guess it does something to his back, and he's trying to disguise it with these tattoos. But I'm sure that's for like a later episode, if at all, if we ever discover it. Maybe if you read the Ironheart comics, you would know. I, I don't read all those comics. You know, it's a lot of comics to read. To read every single Marvel comic ever, like those people, boss level. If you've read every single Marvel comic ever, and that's like all you do. Every single time they do a spinoff, if you have every issue of Dupe, you know, and know it by heart and can, yeah, great. If you know what I'm even talking about, cool. But this is, yeah. Did it blow me away? Was I like, oh my god, the revelations? No, it didn't. No, honestly, it didn't. But at the same time, some people are having like visceral, angry reactions to the show, and they're like paying attention to how many times she steals things, and I'm like, do you pay attention to all of the other heroes and all of the other negative shit that they do every time they do it? Because there are a lot of other heroes that have some really questionable methods. Usually we call them anti-heroes, but I immediately thought of when they were acting like Riri's the first person to have ever stolen anything. I was like, well, that's kind of how we got Scott Lang, isn't it? But I don't see you mentioning that in your review. That would be kind of awkward if you mentioned the fact that just a few years ago we did start off with a white guy who was a thief and became a hero. Did take him, you know, like a movie and some sequels and some Avengers stuff, and to get like a fully fleshed out Ant-Man character. But he's there, and he started as a thief. So the fact that Riri is doing that, I guess, I don't know. I don't know what people, why they see it only here. There's something that's different about Riri and Paul Rudd. Dominique and Paul have a difference. I can't put a thumb on it. I can't. So, uh, I liked Ironheart. I think the reason why I wanted to break it down episode by episode is because, first of all, this is a pilot episode. So it's the first episode. So you have to think about, if I knew nothing else, does this introduce me in a proper way where I could just watch the rest of the series? So I'm going to ding it a little bit because, again, we reference Wakanda Forever in a way that is like, I hope you saw that other thing. So, without talking about it or referencing the people that she knows in Wakanda, anything like that. But otherwise, it sets up the story, tells you who she is, what she's capable of. We get her backstory. People seem to know she's a genius. You're introduced to all the major characters. We get flashbacks. We get maybe reasons for why she wants to give first responders armor, because she survived this drive-by and the others didn't. We learn a little about the community. We see the potential villains. We see conflict. So there's a path forward. It's not a pilot that doesn't show you what the future of the series is. Now, whether or not you like the direction moving forward, that's a different debate. But as far as a pilot episode, as far as the first one out of the gate, this is a strong pilot episode. It does exactly what it's supposed to do in most places. The one thing that it's weak in is just sort of the casual nod to Wakanda Forever as like, I hope you saw that. And it's like, well, we got to stop doing that, because that is sort of a legitimate complaint, is making these nod to things. And it gets kind of exhausting after a while. Like, I didn't think that I needed to brush up on Edward Norton's Incredible Hulk in order to watch Captain America Brave New World, and be like, oh yeah, that's right, Tim Blake Nelson is in this is in this universe. Totally forgot that. There's something to that, because there's so much Marvel, and there are so many side characters that you can pull from. And I know that there's one that gets pulled from here, but it kind of makes sense. So you have to, it's fine if you're pulling from things that make sense. And you're pulling from the things that it's like, okay, so you should have seen these things before. So like, if Captain America Brave New World had pulled Red Skull back, I would have been like, well, you should watch the other Captain America movies. This is the fourth one. If somebody goes into the 7th Fast and Furious film and they're lost and they don't know what's going on, I don't give a shit. Fuck you. You're the one that jumped into the 7th film in a franchise. So, but if you start introducing characters from other films just because they're part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe that's when it gets kind of exhausting. So, I think for the most part, this is contained. I would have maybe explained the Wakanda stuff a little bit more and had her talk about, because you have time. This episode was only like 40 minutes long. She could have easily just been like, I really love my time in Wakanda. I learned so many things, and it was a fun adventure, and I'm now friends with Black Panther, which is cool, or something, like, it's the fact that they can't even like summarize Wakanda Forever in 30 seconds. And they're just like, how was that thing that I did? Yeah, most of us saw it. Maybe not everybody. Maybe we should try to stay open-minded and realize that probably a couple of people might just be watching Ironheart for the first time, because they sort of casually move through Marvel things and not watch every single Marvel project ever. So they don't want to turn to their nerdy Marvel friend who has to then explain it to them and be like, okay, so this character came from... No, we don't need to do that with everything. So otherwise yeah, the kind of bullshit that other people are complaining about with like, oh my god, she steals things. Like, oh my god, we have a Marvel hero that is committing a crime? That's doing something bad at the beginning of their story arc? I don't understand. Where has Marvel gone? What is this? Like, dude, watch the other fucking movies. There's, like, where do we even start with Deadpool? I mean, I know he's not stealing things, but where do we start with all the things that Deadpool does? I know he's an anti-hero, but, like, you break it down, and you're like, okay, so we've got Blade. Like, what? Are we just gonna, is there, like, a crime book for everyone else? Or are we just holding Riri to, like, a standard that we don't hold any other hero to? And then again, why? We know why. We know why. So yeah. I'm gonna give Ironheart season 1 episode 1 an A-. The audio description is pretty good. Yeah, I didn't have any problems with it. So I'm gonna do the other 2 episodes, but separately. So join me if you want to go episode by episode. That's what I'm gonna do over the next couple days. So thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you guys with episode 2 on the other side.